push. Good teamwork, ladies.
Good job.
There we go.
I did something. Okay, so
First bite of lobster, Maine lobster.
oh, this is fun.
Today is all about the #1 food item we think of when we think of Maine, lobster.
This afternoon we're going on a 1.5-hour lobstering tour with Lucky Catch Cruises, where we're going to get to learn all about lobster, see some beautiful views from the water, and get to help catch lobster, which we will then get to eat afterwards.
Every boat's got to display their buoy somewhere on the boat. Back in the old days of wooden boats, guys would just slash a couple stripes of paint in the side, but it's easy to just lay that right over the VHF antenna. But yeah, first one's right in front of us, white buoy, red top, green stripe. So we like to let the trap stay down for about 3 days before we do the same one over again. So now the rope goes around the winch. That's controlled by this lever here, and that's going to bring the traps up to the boat. These first two traps are coming up from about 30 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
And keep your fingers crossed, because we don't know what's going to be in there. Could be totally empty. Could be other marine life in there besides lobsters. All right, lobster and a crab. That guy's not going to be big enough to keep. These guys right here, these are called Jonah crabs. Yeah, we have no market to sell these crabs, so we end up throwing them all back in. Oh, this rock crab right here, so that's the other species. They look a lot alike. It's hard to tell them apart, but these guys are much more feisty. Okay. This is the closest thing we'd have to like a blue claw crab, like you found down the Chesapeake. And these are very similar to like stone crabs, like you get down in the Gulf of Mexico. So from the eye socket down to the edge of the back here has to be at least 3 1/4 inches. On the short side of this gauge, from this point to this point, is exactly 3 1/4 inches. So this point hooks right behind the eye. Pull it back, and then you watch to see where this point falls. If it falls on the back, he's big enough. Under the back, obviously this one's small, but see how that touches underneath. But if that bottom point touches up here, you got yourself a keeper. This is a great example of regeneration. Can you see the claw right there, that little tiny sprout?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna eat.
Yeah. So lobsters can regrow their claws or their legs or even these antennas. These parts of their mouth will grow back if they lose one.
Oh, wow.
So on a small lobster, it takes about a year to regenerate, and then the older the lobster gets, the longer it takes. You can see how the traps work, guys. So everything walks up these ramps here on the side to get at the bait. You can see they chew on it right through the bag. We're down to mostly bones in there. Eventually they're gonna fall on the floor kind of near the brick and have a hard time getting back out. So what they do is they climb this second ramp just because that's the easiest way to go. But once they're in the back of the trap, the small ones have a way out. See this little vent down here on the bottom and this one on the door? Those by law have to be a certain width. So all the smaller lobsters can eat for free and then just scoot right out. So it actually takes a lobster 7 years to grow to be keeper size. So for 6 years, we're just training them to go in and out. And then once they turn 7, that's when they get stuck. Like that little guy probably could have made it through.
Now we need 3 fish in each bag, head first, okay guys?
Get behind that one together, okay? Each get a hand on it. So I'm gonna slide this one in first, and then it's gonna be about 10 seconds. When I say 1, 2, 3, you guys just slide the second one over, all right? Yeah, we won't see these traps for about another 3 more days. Here goes the first one. 1, 2, teamwork, ladies. All right, there we go.
I did something. Okay. So we made to the first set of traps. They took it out. They saw what was in it. There wasn't really anything to keep. They changed out the bait, and then I got to help throw it back in, and I got to help put more bait into a bag, so I got to touch a fish.
That's all crabs, guys. I'm gonna slide this one back, and then anybody that wants to volunteer, come on up and grab those crabs and toss them overboard.
Come here, buddy.
Come on, buddy.
Here, while you're right here, go ahead. Let's change this bait out, okay?
All right. So I just got to put on the gloves, and after they pulled in the trap, I got to take out the crabs and throw back the crabs, and then reset the fish traps for the lobsters, and then they just threw the traps back. That was fun.
So far, we have yet to get a keepable lobster, so hopefully we'll get to have dinner
The
tonight.
next one.
If it's a male lobster, these are called swimmerettes here, but the top two tell us whether or not it's a male or female, and these are hard white rods with orange tips. That's the male. On a female, they would look more like mini versions of these. They'd be soft and feathery, and they cross like an X. Hopefully we'll find one so we can show you.
If we find a female lobster that's covered in eggs, it means it's egg bearing, it's able to reproduce. So when it's covered in eggs, it's 10,000 eggs that look like little black raspberries all over the tail. So when we do find an egg bearing female, it's gonna lay its eggs right here and it sticks on. So if we catch an egg bearing female, we're gonna notch the second to right fin of the tail in a V. So when it molts its shell, because it molts its shell once a year, when it molts its shell, it will keep that scar. So if other fishermen catch that lobster, they know it can reproduce, so they throw it back.
Yep.
This is how we keep up with our reproduction in Maine. If we find a male lobster that is larger than this 5 inches for the measurement, we have to throw it back because female lobsters have to mate with male lobsters the same size as them. You keep getting older and older and larger, up to 120 years old, so they can get really large. But a female lobster is not going to mate with a 1-pound male. She needs a mate of her own size. She'll just eat him as a snack.
Well, they're biologically immortal, which means that their DNA regenerates perfectly every time. It doesn't break down like ours does. Lobsters grow when they molt their shells, which generally happens around once a year when they're about this size.
Oh yeah.
But as they get bigger and bigger, so when they molt, they come out super soft and vulnerable. And as they get bigger, it's harder for them to find safe places to be while they wait for their shell to harden. So they tend to get eaten by other things as they get bigger. So we don't know exactly how long a lobster can live.
One of the largest lobsters found was in Canada. It was 44 pounds, and it
was like
the size of a toddler.
Yeah.
Lobster in there. Might even be a female, so we can check males and females.
The camera, she's gonna measure.
Alright, is that a female? I think it is.
It's a female.
Yeah.
This doesn't want to lobster.
And that's a little bit short.
Yep.
Well, everybody, so like in general.
Time to remove some crabs. Where is there one? Oh my god, I'm kind of scared. You're evicted! He did not want to go. Oh my god, so all of these.
Some of them are just, they're
stubborn.
They're stubborn and they are grabbing a hold of that.
Yeah, all of them need to go?
Yeah.
All
You
right.
almost gotta wait for them to be on the move sometimes before they.
Can I just try for this little buddy?
Come on here and wrap it around.
Oh
You
god!
got him, you got him. Impressive. Well done.
I only ripped one arm off.
That's cool.
Now, this is a test. Is it a male or female? Soft and feathery.
Female.
Female.
We got one.
That was such a whirlwind.
So much fun.
It was a blast. You really feel like you're working on a lobster boat. He kept saying like, come on, we gotta get these crabs off. We gotta rebait the traps. Like, come on, keep moving, keep moving. So you feel like you're really like being put
You're
to
in part
work.
of the experience for sure.
And the tour itself cost $40 per person before tip, which was more than worth it because you learn so much, you get a super scenic boat ride, and at the end of the tour, you have the option to purchase a lobster from the boat for market price. And we got ourselves one lobster for $10.
So we're gonna take this lobster next door to Portland Lobster Co. and for $12, they'll cook it up for you and they'll give you corn, fries, and coleslaw.
I think that's a pretty good deal. So we have both never had lobster before, so I cannot think of a better place to have it for the first time than here in Maine. And one thing you'll notice about this lobster is that when you catch the lobster from the ocean, it's kind of a brown color. It doesn't turn that iconic red color that you think of until it's actually cooked.
So we watched a YouTube video on how to eat this yesterday. So we're basically experts, but if we do it wrong, don't judge us. All right, so apparently you're supposed to take it by the tail here and
Ooh!
give it a twist.
Ooh, steamy.
Yeah. Maybe you use this. You do it this way first. Oh. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere.
We're gonna have to come out with these.
No. First timer here. Look at that. Big lobster tail there. First bite of lobster, Maine lobster. That is really good. This thing is super meaty, way meatier than I thought it would be. It's kind of chewy, and chewier than I thought it would be as well. But it has a really good, kind of a little bit of a sweet, meaty flavor. And then when you dip it in the butter, oh, just butter goes good on anything. It just takes it to the next level. I really like it. I'm a lobster fan now. Just one bite in.
The butter's good. Yeah, it's kind of chewy like you said. No, it doesn't really have like a strong fishy taste or anything like that. I tasted the butter instantly and it had a really good buttery flavor, but together it's a pretty good combination. As I always say, I still prefer steak, but this is actually pretty good.
Next up is the claw. I think you're just supposed to crack it here at the knuckle. I don't know, we're just gonna do that. There it goes, something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I saw that that's a good sign. That comes right out. Should just come. Look at that, that looks cool. I like the claw meat better. It's a little bit more tender, a little bit more flavor. Claw's way to go so far.
In the back seat, you would have been in the front seat with us. You would have been all over the place. You would have been.
Yeah, I agree. I like the claw better too. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to like better. I don't know if the tail's supposed to be better than the claw. But that's just what we like.
Jumping up on
It was so much fun learning about lobstering. We can't recommend that experience enough, and also trying lobster for the first time. But our time in Portland isn't done just yet. Tomorrow we're gonna explore and eat our way through the city. You ready to catch some lobster?
Oh yes! Smells fishy.
Fishy finger.
He came in the house. He was running up and down.